Let's kick this one off with two big announcements. The first is that the interior of Loglands is complete. We're going to do a full aesthetic tour of what I built down there. And something to go in your calendar on April the 12th and 13th, there's going to be an in-person charity streaming weekend event with Gamers Outreach. I am not attending in person, but I am going to be a part of this event through the server. And let me tell you this, the Hermits have got so much amazing entertainment planned for you this weekend. So be sure to put it in your calendar, and I'll see you there on the April the 12th and 13th. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Hermitcraft, one that is mostly about Loglands. But first of all, let's address something that we did in the previous episode. We created a little, I guess you could call it a tribute to Season 1 of Hermitcraft. And there was one final audio component that Joe Hills was going to take care of. And so let's see how that played out. Ah, fell. He might be in this area. Oh, look, see.
Hey, X.
Hi.
I was just going to let you know. Howdy. I was just going to let you know I've got the records ready.
Oh, cool.
And also this part.
I don't have my redstone ready. Well, let's go ahead and ace this first time, right? I'm just gonna show off how good I am at parkour. Totally not gonna fall into the fire.
Please don't.
Wow.
So the way this, so the thing is, there's an option here. If the player has a lot of hearts, they could take some damage jumping straight across, or they could kind of just gently. Boop, boop, boop.
That's clever. I like that. Nice.
Yeah. So it's kind of I don't know how Impulse is going to be doing food throughout this. I think there are opportunities for players to eat. So depending on how they've kind of managed their resources, they might be willing to make a big jump to shave a few little bit of time off.
That's a good idea. I like this. And they got to dodge the fire as they climb, which is going to make it a little more challenging.
Yeah. Do you want to come hear the music discs? Or
sure.
Well, I guess they're not music, but yeah. I've got a record player for each. It did take me a little bit of time to practice getting those audio players.
Oh, right. It should be, like, the process for putting the audio on. You're all right.
Yeah, I'm good.
Oh, the explosions are great. There's one command that you need to use to put the audio on the disc. Were you able to find that?
Yeah, I figured it out eventually. But, okay. So, yeah, I went to Smallish Beans' shop and bought some discs from him to use. And then I just renamed them and uploaded the right audio.
Well, welcome and exit. I got it. So let's give these a listen. Wow, I haven't heard these yet.
Welcome to the Metro Mayhem Hermit History Experience. This timeline showcases each successive season of Hermitcraft as remembered by the hermits who lived through and contributed to them. Each exhibit is a testament to the talent, teamwork, and dedication of these artists through the years. Witness ahead an amalgamation. The player should be done with this room in 3 seconds.
Yes, I was about to say.
Part of the joke is it'll wreck your score if you stand here to listen. Biffa 2001's bowl with Covenant Rainbow after its flood. Hypnotized's Ziggurat and Joe Hills's Jungle Nether Tendrils. Central to this piece is a period-accurate recreation of Karate Karalis, depicted in customary Western interpretations of traditional Japanese clothing. Please continue through the portal ahead to progress to Hermitcraft Season 2.
Was there any more, by the way? Like, that felt like that was it.
That was it. But that's enough where, like, the first time somebody runs through here, they're going to know they can improve their score by not standing here and listening to that. Thank you for enjoying Hermitcraft Season 1. This exhibit was created through the efforts of Karalis, Xisuma, and Joe Hills, who apologize that you have to go look at Cleo's thing next. I hope that's not too mean. I think Cleo will appreciate it.
She will love that. That's like a sense of humor right there. Oh, that's
awesome.
Good. Okay, so I got to do redstone, right? I got to sneak some redstone into here and then make it work. So, I have to think about this a fair bit. Yeah, it's time for me to put my thinking cap on and do some redstone, I guess.
Fair enough. Well, I'll get out of your way because it was just time for me to go make lunch. But thanks so much, Xisuma, for all the work you did on this overnight. This looks
Oh,
fantastic.
I'm more than happy to, more than happy to. It turned out great, right? It certainly did. I got a lot of encouraging comments on the last episode about this build. Many of you nostalgically reminiscing on having watched Hermitcraft for over 10 years now. As for the redstone, it's a super simple thing, right? So those observers with the string on are going to set off this redstone. They can actually do that over and over again because the first pulse is going to move the disk across. It's going to end up down here when it's finished playing, and then we detect that it's there. We power the block next to it and put it back in the dropper up the top so it can be played again. And that is not the last of the redstone we're going to see this episode, because I've gone ahead and installed something between mine and Jevin's base. When I point at these two things, my base is here, Loglands is there, Jevin is right in the middle, and he is not a fan of all the beacons that I've set up around his area. So I've been figuring out a system that allows both of us to turn these beacons on and off. And there's a whole bunch of redstone hidden underground, and on the surface, the only thing you're going to see is this beacon interface right here. So it's got a lamp behind it to tell you that it's turned on. That is some serious zoom right there. Okay, 60%. That's more like I like it. The note block you can click on, change the status of the lamp, and then that'll turn off the beacons. Now here's a really good spot because I can look up into the sky. So if I click the note block like that and then we look up, we're going to see the beacons shut down like one at a time, and they're all turned off, and so is this lamp. So now we'll go ahead and click that, look back up into the sky. It'll probably take about just the same time, and they slowly turn back on. Now this is all fine and dandy when you're stood at Jevin's base because you're loading both Loglands and my base. But if you're over here in my base, Loglands isn't loaded. So when we go and change this, are we changing the beacons over at Loglands? This is my interface, by the way, so I'm just going to go ahead, turn those off. It takes a second for this thing to update as well. And now that it has, we'll go ahead and fly over to Loglands. And we should see, there it is, the beacon beams turn off. And over here at Loglands, I also have a beacon interface. You know how this works. We click on the note block, and then this is off at the moment, right? This is synchronous across all three spots. This is achieved with a system that is quite spread out on Hermitcraft, but I have a prototype for the concept here. So we've got these buttons on diamond blocks. Those are essentially the note blocks, and then the redstone lamp that tells us if the beacons are on or off are here as well. If I go ahead and press this, we're essentially diverting our signal through to this middle spot, which interacts with this piston. Each time we give it a signal, we simply change the state of that redstone block. Is it powering the redstone down there, or is it not? If it's not, you can see that the redstone lamps will not be powered and the beacons will be blocked at either side. And then we go ahead, press the button again to change the state, and then the beacons are active and so are the lamps. Now the big thing here is about sending powered signals through unloaded chunks. And I've devised a simple experiment to show that in action. And this seems to work if you have a repeater on the border or just redstone like so. But between each of these chunks that gets loaded and unloaded, it's actually going to remember that it's powered down here. So as we back away, in theory, you could say that the unloaded chunk means that there isn't a power source pointing into the next chunk. Now we can see off into the distance because I have the Bobby mob, but believe me, this is beyond the loading distance of the server. So when we get down to the end here, those redstone torches that we placed, they are no longer loaded, but the redstone is still powered. And this quite simply means when I'm over at my base, I'm not actually loading Loglands and the beacons that are there, but when they do get loaded, they'll either be on or off based on the redstone that is powered or not. So you'll understand this conceptually now, I hope. I'm going to use the FreeCam mod to look around at the redstone. The heart of it is here in Jevin's base, because if you activate at either side, you'll be loading this area down here, and this is where we have that redstone block that tells you the state of the beacons. So the redstone wires on either side, this one branches off here and goes into some redstone torches. they go up to the lamp at the top, and that's what the two over here do as well. They go off to those other interfaces that we just saw. So I've been digging like a lot of tunnels and lining up a lot of redstone to do this. These unpowered bits of redstone that you see here, they're the inbound signals from my base and from Loglands to interact with this thing right here. The observers come from doing it just up there where Jevons is. Now there's one more bit of redstone, and that's the one that goes down here. This actually goes down to where the beacons are. So I dug this annoying, obnoxious tunnel that went through some waterlogged areas all the way down to this ginormous tunnel that goes between the two sets of beacons. These up here are the ones underneath my base. And then at the other end, you can see that we have this long winding circuit that goes all the way around to each of the different beacons one by one. And that's why you saw a bit of a delay earlier with them shutting down one by one when we were at Jevons. So hopefully you understood all of that, and you're now a redstone wizard, right? My goal is always to explain things to you in a way that I hope that you can learn from. So maybe, if you want to do a similar type of project, you got some of the bare bones ideas there to implement it for yourself. All right, and we're heading into Loglands, not to do a tour, but actually I have one more thing to do beforehand. I've been conducting a bit of an experiment while I've been working on this in the background. I haven't really been putting the building process into my episodes, but I have decided not to use my storage system at all for sorting junk. And I wondered what the chest monster would look like at the end of this, and it's absolutely horrendous. The amount of project chests left over here, just completely disorganized and random. I mean, I don't actually care to count how many are here. If you want to, pause the video, count the shulker boxes. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, I know. And just recently, I uploaded this video to my channel, the evolution of my Minecraft storage system, where I unveiled my Hermitcraft 11 storage system. And to make it very clear, there will be another season of Hermitcraft. As of right now, though, we're in the middle of season 10. Don't even worry about the next one. Well, clearly I've been worrying about it. At least the inventory management aspect of that. And after building this system over here, I didn't really want to build another one this season. So all the design flaws that I had here, I worked into that new system. And I've realized that there was one perfectly good idea in the new storage system I could easily bring over to this one. And that is the inclusion of chests just below where the shulker boxes are. Because when we run all of those shulker boxes through the system, which I'm fully anticipating is going to run well overnight, we're going to end up with tons of junk in these barrels like I've already got in these shulker boxes. I would then organize these a little bit more and drop them into the relevant chests that are near to the shulker boxes with similar contents. I am also certain that there was another idea I was going to bring across as well as these chests, but it's not coming to mind right now. So I am going to crack on. I've probably got to make several journeys bringing back all of this junk, but we're going to run the sorter, and I'm very curious how many hours it will take to get through all of these boxes. I timed it. It's not a new day. It actually took less than 6 hours. It did help that I rummaged through the boxes and just pick out some that were full of like the same material and stash those to one side. And now I am happy to report that I am junk free. Check this out. We got nothing in the barrels over here. And it only takes a little bit of time to come and drop off excess items into these chests over here. And, that's so much better now. In this one, I got so much leftover wood that I sorted them into shulker boxes. And the process is pretty simple. You just kind of take junk from out of those chests and come across to where the shulker boxes correspond with the chest and drop things in. And then as it gets filled up, you can do something like this. Just place down a shulker box, dump in a load of similar items, and then stash it away again. And this will be even better in the next storage system when these shulker boxes will also have the corresponding blocks next to them. It's going to be wonderful. Now with that taken care of, we can turn our attention to Loglands and taking a look around the completed inside area. Which, although it's finished, I may expand and put more things in here with time because I might just want to build some more farms. And one of the first things to say is, where on earth do we start with this tour? Let's talk about the crater at the bottom of all of this. It turned out to look absolutely fantastic. However, when you pay close attention to it, you'll start to notice that it's relatively low effort. You've got all of this glow lichen spread out, and the block palette is actually only granite and dirt. Well, that was rather intentional. If this was something that I was going to spend more time closer to, like I am right now, then we could have added little biomes, put more blocks into the palette, and put more effort into hiding these light sources. But otherwise, it serves its purpose, and over on this side, it starts to blend into dripstone, because dripstone caves were the original biome in this back area over here, so I blended the two together. I think the whole thing looks fantastic. It serves as a really interesting base for all of these other structures to emerge on top of, and somehow this giant wall of glass looks not too bad either. This went right into the middle of those dripstone caves, as you can see, yet somehow that hasn't really spoiled the view. Now, for those of you unaware of how Loglands came together, this was a giant boring hole full of nothing but redstone contraptions, and the idea was to come and dress them all up aesthetically later on. So we're actually going to start the tour by heading into one of those areas to just remind you or give you an idea of what this all used to look like. A lot of stuff like this, just undecorated, redstone everywhere. And this particular project is actually the heart of Loglands, because it's here on this surface that we create all of the bone meal that gets distributed to all of the different farms. So because of that, there are these chains of hoppers with composters on top of them. You'll see them around the build. Some of them have been hidden behind the build. And where the bone meal comes out of the farm, we actually have a giant storage silo up here. You can see a part of it in front of us. There are loads and loads of chests holding bone meal, and we actually read the contents of that and send a signal out to a bunch of redstone lamps. So when I go this side of the wall, you'll now understand what this part is here. Those redstone lamps simply indicate how full our storage silo is. And this right here is actually a weird little redstone circuit that simply extends those signals out from where the lamps used to be and then move them across so they can match the new location. This area here is directly below those lamps. And if we open this door and go through here and head upwards, there is a very interesting spot for a project we're going to come back to later on in this episode. Can you see that there? That is actually a skeleton spawner. And when I stand inside of here, it will be active. This spot is just below where the lamps are. So I'm going to punch out those torches and make a skeleton farm where the skeletons just free fall down to the bottom here. We'll probably like open up a square pit for them to fall into. It might mess with the aesthetics of this area a little bit, but I'll probably find a way to fit it in. So continuing onwards, we have other little farms tucked away in this area. I'm not going to be explaining the farms one by one. I've already been building these and talking about them in my episodes. Today we are walking around and looking at the facades that now cover them up. You may be expecting me to talk a lot about the building process, why things look the way they do, but the truth is I don't really have a good way of explaining my builds yet. I'm still not sure what I'm doing half the time. I just keep placing blocks until it feels about right. And so these are just the end results of me trying lots of different stuff. If you're wondering why the building extrudes out from its original location here, well, that's because there's just something on the other side. This happens to be a blast chamber. So a lot of the shapes and layouts that you see are just dictated by where redstone was. One thing I have done quite successfully, I feel, is hide the back of these builds because they just kind of descend into darkness, right? If we head over to the back here and hit the wall, you'll see that behind this big farm, it's just nothing but blackstone going up to the ceiling. And so areas like this are deliberately dark so that you don't see those borders. I did, however, do something quite different over in that area. Let us use the free cam to get a little closer. And once again, these areas are all really dark. But here what I did is I had dripstone coming all the way up to the very top. The reason that I did that is because our farm here emits a lot of light. So I would have had to push those blackstone walls really far away and it wouldn't have felt right. So I was editing the video and realized I would have to insert a clip here where we go down and chug a night vision potion because, wow, look at that. Not only do you see these harsh walls that I've managed to hide, you see everything else just in a different light. Yeah, there's no darkness here. Wow. The whole thing just feels different all of a sudden. Wow, this is kind of wild, and you can really see all of the wood on the underside as well. This is normally plunged into darkness, which is why it is mostly made up of spruce wood, because I had a automatic spruce wood farm where I didn't have an automatic dark oak farm. But yeah, there you go. That's kind of wild. Loglands with night vision. It doesn't have the same charm, right? The darkness really aids this build. Anyways, we're going to try and go around this in a circular motion from one side to the other. So as we step down here, we come into our mega smelting array, which has some really cool redstone back here for sending out minecarts once you put items into this chest. It has occurred to me there is absolutely no reason not to do a live demonstration. So as we put those in there, minecarts get loaded up to evenly distribute its contents across all of the furnaces. When it sends out the minecarts to load up the furnaces, a little while later, it'll send out minecarts to pull the items out. But yeah, it's really cool. I think it does like 80 items at a time. And the fuel, by the way, it's charcoal. So back here we have both logs and logs, which come from a log farm over there. All right, moving on. Around the corner, we have this little drop-down area to the auto crafting station for resin. We did this project really recently, so I don't need to run you through all the details, but this is a common thing you're going to see, is that we'll just have chests of materials, and when we take something out, they just start getting auto crafted immediately. So behind here, there's a whole bunch of that crazy redstone, and then the whole smelting array for this is actually hidden up here. And it's inside these furnaces that we smelt up all of the resin. So of course that means it comes around this bit that we saw a moment ago. If we just follow the water back, it goes down into the dripstone caves, it goes around the corner and back to this big old cage that we saw earlier. And this is where our resin farm is that uses the creakings. It's a very long-winded journey to get all of the materials from over there to back over here. Oh, and by the way, this is a little detail that I love. Putting the candles on top of the bushes. I've done that in quite a few spots around here. It's a really nice decorative detail that we deployed. Anyway, this is where all the bamboo stuff gets crafted. So you see auto crafters, you see barrels, they're full of items, you can pull them out and stuff gets auto crafted again. And then over here we have our bamboo mosaic blocks. So that's the down there area, and I'm coming back up the top here just to walk past the front of the bamboo farm where we have this nice greenery leading up to a very strange building which actually doesn't have a roof or anything. It just kind of ascends all the way to the very top of this, which is filled in with wood as far as the eye can see, although the shadows do a pretty good job of masking that. But this was just, again, like freeform building. I didn't really have too much of a concept for how this would turn out. It was just about, trying to use a bunch of colorful wood blocks. And inside of it is a farm that is unfortunately broken for creating cobwebs. And if we head down around the corner here, you'll see that I've actually opened up this wall because I'm planning on building another farm back here. So Loglands can still expand in the future. If we continue the staircase down and around, we have the bottom of the bamboo farm where things get auto-crafted. So continuing from here, we will enter a familiar site that we were just at a moment ago. I do want to take a moment to just point out that wherever you are in this build, I've tried to cover all visible points. Like even this bit here has some building inside of it. If we go down and around, you can see that I put some thought into what appears in front of you at all the different places. So there's no part where you can just find a space that hasn't been decorated or thought about. Now, we branch off in two different directions here, so let's take the simpler one first. We go down into this little storage depot where we just got some logs hanging around ready for storage, and then the path out front connects us to where we're going to go next. Before we head up this side, though, I will point out we have a similar storage depot above our furnace array. The difference with this one is that there's no way to get here other than flying, and then inside we've got a bunch of different logs and bamboo being stored. All right, so up into this brick area. It's been decorated with bricks because we actually automatically make that stuff over here. This is where we get loads of wood, which we use for the smelter. We get mud over here. Occasionally some cobble. That's not really the main farm though. We've got the rooted dirt. I am editing again and realized that I skipped over something rather important. Wow, the darkness makes such a difference there. Yeah, above this build, we got another blast chamber. And behind it is the rooted dirt farm that can also be shimmied into a clay and mud farm. It's currently in rooted dirt mode. And there is just some absolutely marvelous redstone back here designed by Cybot. But yeah, all of this that we're seeing in front of it is just the facade for this farm. So I'll look around as we make our way down. It's quite dark and dingy in this corner. And you'll also notice that I've used a lot of mangrove wood here alongside the rooted dirt and the bricks that we get from that other farm. So it's down here that we can collect that stuff. Once again, I've managed to make the redstone fit into this facade around it. And so it's at these points here that you can pick up bricks. What's the other materials? Terracotta. We automatically make that stuff here, as well as clay. And then we've got our auto-packed mud farm over in these chests. This is one of my favorite bits, I think, in Loglands. I really love how the facade turned out here. And it was also quite difficult to work with, just based on where the redstone was and where other things were in proximity to it. Anyway, as we head down, you'll see all the little details here and there. I've just designed this from a perspective of walking through it, trying to make it feel a little cozy and whatnot. And oh yeah, this is the bit where it connects up. So if we follow it straight ahead, we will plunge down into some greenery that is the mangrove farm. This is a very recent project of mine, so I'm not going to spend too much time here, as you probably saw this a couple of episodes ago. Heading back out, we have two of the best farms, or maybe they're the same farm. This massive thing right here. Let's go ahead and use the free cam and just see it from some other perspectives. This is where we produce netherwood automatically without player interaction. This is something that dawned on me last season of Hermitcraft, Season 9, that it was actually possible to farm netherwood without the player being involved, and so using bone meal, you can get lots of netherwood, but then we stepped it up with the auto crafting system. So in here, you'll see that there are lots of materials that have been auto crafted. And then down here, we even do the recipes with sticks involved. The decor in here turned out pretty fantastic. It's got a real nice vibe to it. When we head out, though, the cage above it is a little bit on the obnoxious side, but I think it just about works. Obviously, we need a lot of vertical space here for the big trees. We got TNT dupers as well, so this is one massive blast area. Maybe you could argue I've missed a spot here, right? Like, look at the wall at the back. I think I'm going to have to come and put some building materials back there, maybe blackstone or something more decorative. If we head back on ourselves for a second, I'll just point out, like, the lighting in this area is really delicate. I didn't want you to see the black walls at the back. However, I ended up changing them to dripstone, but you can see they're just going straight up here. There's not a lot of detail and shape. And so when you do things like that, it's a good idea just to keep it in the dark so it doesn't bring your attention to it. Anyway, heading around to this side, we get to the three very similar, well, actually identical crafting setups for three types of wood that come from the farm hidden behind all of this up here. That farm I also designed in Season 9 of Hermitcraft, so once again we brought it forward to this season and leveled it up with the auto crafting stuff. So this is the same on each floor. We got a really cool staircase where you walk around 2 times to reach the next level. The decor here is really cool, anvils and smithing tables. Every now and then, it's good to just kind of like stop walking around, looking at what's in front of you, and look around at Loglands because it always looks a little different and very interesting from all of the different vantage points. Let's continue heading upwards though, because the staircase changes. There's actually another little bit of unfinished business here as well. I planned on putting some sort of lamp indicator around here to let you know how full these chests are. They collect saplings and apples from the tree farm that is directly above. So this is a line of hoppers feeding bone meal into our farm, and we get into it like this. Actually, you know what? I can go in because getting out is nice and easy. Bam. Just like that. And so as we look above at the redstone, you may recognize this from last season of Hermitcraft. This is the tree farm that I designed. and attached to it is the same blast chamber as well. Although when I put the iron bars around it, it turned out it was a little too close on this side, and it ended up blowing up some of the blocks on the side. So over here, this bit looks kind of different from out here. But again, this thing was just built up here, floating above all the other stuff. I had no plans for how I'd decorate it all, and that's why it looks so funky, because I've just had to build around some existing structures. All right, we now arrive over here at the beacon control that you saw earlier. Now, this bit right here, which is above the creaking farm, I think is fantastic because it's a series of little miniature farms that all do the same thing, right? They provide you with an item and then a dye. So this one is bone blocks and white dye. Over here, cactus gets turned into green dye. The trick is when you take it out, it'll start refilling it. I think this one has to start smelting, so it might take a moment. This one, though, should just start crafting straight away. You can see it doing its thing there. We're creating lots of rose bushes. And so, yeah, the idea, though, is that there might be one or two other farms I haven't considered that would fit into this space. So I've left room for 3 more down the end here. And look, we got a whole bunch of them. But what's really cool is how the redstone is all squeezed together back here. And this even includes having some crazy redstone that I can barely remember how it works anymore. And somewhere back here, yeah, there it is, tucked away. We've actually got a giant cactus farm as well. And it feels very fitting that we're now seeing it from this angle, because we kind of reached the end of the tour. And so now what I'll do is I'll just fly around like this to give you a very odd perspective. You can see that there's just so much funky stuff going on in this area. But when we see it from this side, we get to see all of those redstone guts that are behind the facades we've constructed around them. And if you're putting 1 and 2 together, this bit right here is the bamboo auto crafting. Then we got the resin stuff back here, the back of the auto smelter, and then back into these dripstone caves. And that's kind of it. We've got a spawner over there. That's a zombie spawner. I think I'm just going to leave that there for the time being. It's kind of fun to have them floating around. But this one we're actually going to put to use, right? Oh, if only I could land on it. Let's not go so fast. Oh, that looks good. That looks... Oh, no. Let us try that again. Oh, that looks perfect. Okay, brilliant, brilliant. I'm on top of it. Wonderful. Now let's punch out the torches. These skeletons should spawn straight away, which they do. And I'm kind of hoping that they will die on impact, which they also do. So now I just got to figure out, like, the space around this that they spawn at. And then dig out a hole down there for them to fall into so we can collect their drops. Then I'll be stood inside of there and we'll have another source of bone meal to feed into our storage silo. It's also dawned on me, I think the efficiency of this farm is going to be impacted by sunlight. Yeah, so it might be better to use this one at nighttime. I'm down here digging out a boring square for the skeletons to fall into, and I think it's going to break up the feel of the area. So I tried to do something a little more organic, but it's still kind of obnoxious. Not the worst thing ever. It also matches what's going on over here somewhat too. And I think with maybe a few more blocks around the outside, we can probably find a balance to try and hide a bit more of this. But the general idea is that wherever they fall, the water will push them down into this middle bit. So they won't instantly die, but then we've got some magma blocks down there to slowly damage them. So next thing, we'll just give this idea a little test. I will go up into the waiting room and hopefully we'll see some skeletons drop down. Or maybe we'll have to wait a little while. This thing is painfully slow in the daytime. Oh, and there it goes. And there go the skeletons. And they're all getting pushed down to the center. Awesome. It works. I do, however, have to build a collection system below this magma. That will then dispose of all of the items except the bones, turn them into bone meal, and put them inside of our silo. So obviously our tour concluded a minute ago, and we've added one more project to the Loglands area. There'll be more projects coming here in the future, including the area around the outside, which I've started to decorate over here. So there's still a long way for this project to go, but the bulk of it now is done. And just in case you forgot about it, I figured I would fly up here. There it is. We've got this. Don't forget about it. Aha, look at that. Our shulker box logo. Fantastic. In fact, this is a pretty good spot to end the episode, so leave a like if you enjoyed it, leave a comment down below to let me know what you think of Loglands, and I'll see you soon with another episode of Hermitcraft. Bye bye!